For all your credit problems, concerns, or questions, call the show's off-air number at 973-771-5118 and speak to the hosts of the show, Damon DiCrescenzo and attorney Jason Kaplan directly. 973-771-5118. You're listening to The Credit Pros on Real Estate Radio New Jersey with local credit experts Damon DiCrescenzo and attorney Jason Kaplan. Now, here's Jason and Damon.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Credit Pros on Real Estate Radio New Jersey. I'm here with Damon DiCrescenzo, and we're just having a conversation here in the studio because we're talking to the board op, we're talking with Gary, and they just want to know, are we allowed to charge for what we do? Is what we do legal?
Is credit repair legal?
Are we some black hat working in the shadows of the credit industry?
Well, let me start by saying, Jason, you're an attorney, and I certainly hope that what you're doing is legal, because it wouldn't be very, very right if it weren't legal.
Absolutely. Not only am I an attorney, I'm an attorney in 4 different states, New York, New Jersey, Florida, and D.C. I spent a lot of time being a bookworm in the library, and I would not jeopardize those degrees for anything, especially not someone else's credit.
That's right. So let's talk about it for a sec. First off, this is the Credit Pros, and our company helps to improve people's credit reports and their credit scores and remove bad things and put them into a better position. And we get paid when we do that. So there are a lot of different companies out there that do a lot of different things. But in essence, when we work on removing something negative, when we force a credit bureau and a creditor to improve your credit, we get paid. We don't get paid a super large amount of money because we're in business to help people. And normally the people that are coming to us are trying to get something, trying to do something, trying to buy a home, get a car, get that job. And their credit's preventing them from doing that. So the conversation led to, is credit repair legal or illegal? And it's a legal and trusted and ethical service that we provide, because the creditors, the banks, the companies that don't want you to know that they are sticking it to you, we're fighting them on your behalf because they have really good lobbyists. They have a lot of money and control the system. So people are brainwashed into thinking that their rights are not important. And all we do is make sure that those rights are enforced.
I mean, think about it. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch of the imagination. But does a bank or a credit card company make money off someone with high credit or low credit? And the answer every day is low credit. That's the people who pay the larger interest. That's the people who mess up and pay late fees and overdraft fees. That's who they make money off of. In fact, here's a little gimmick. The credit bureaus are so good at monetizing their clientele that they've even figured out a way to make money off people with good credit. Because if you're a victim of identity theft, it's easy to protect yourself. All you have to do is put a fraud alert so people can't open up credit without calling you. But what happens is they've promulgated this myth and promoted this credit fraud myth so that even people who are rich and have good credit now feel like they have to go and pay for credit monitoring services.
That's right.
$15, $20 a month. Do you know who owns the credit monitoring services?
Who owns the credit monitoring services?
Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, the 3 largest credit bureaus. They own them. Every month you pay them anywhere between $20 and $30 just to look at your credit.
That's right. So how do they make the money? Let's talk about this for a second. We weren't planning on talking about it, but the credit bureaus, right? Are they government agencies? No, they're for-profit businesses. How do they make their money? Gary, do you know? The credit bureaus make their money by selling your information. They make their money when Capital One says, give me 500,000 people with subpar credit, so that this way Capital One can send them their pre-approved credit card at 29.9% interest rate. And Experian says, okay, Capital One, we'll charge you X amount of dollars. Here's their data. Here's your data. Oh, also, here's where they work. Here's what they do for a living. This is what they made last year. Also, this is where they shopped. And here's their social security number. Have a good day.
And if it's a list for credit cards, that all works opposite. But a list for credit card companies, for example, people with a 600 to 650 credit score, that list is going to be a lot more expensive than a 750 to an 800 credit score because it's worth more money to the credit card companies. And likewise, when mortgage companies buy lists, a mortgage list for people in the 700s because they could actually be approved as opposed to a list in the 500s who can't get approved for a loan, that one's going to be more expensive. It's just a way to monetize. It's just, that's all it is. And when you dispute things with the credit bureaus, they figured out another way to make money because what ends up happening is they pay India, say 25 cents per dispute because all these disputes are outsourced. So the credit bureaus were outsourced to a center that processes the disputes that you send into the bureaus. So the call center charges 25 cents. Well, the credit bureaus actually charge the creditor 50 cents per item that's being disputed. So if you send a letter with 10 items being disputed, the bureau's only paid quarter, but they're actually charging the different creditors $5 a letter.
It's insane. These companies are really good at one thing, making gobs of money at the expense of Joe Consumer. And it is the way that it is. There's nothing that we can do to change that system. The best that we can do is try to fight them in the ways that we can. You know, at the end of the day, going back to what you were saying, if you have a 750 credit score, you may consider yourself the hero, but you are not really worth very much money to these companies. You're worth a lot more to them when you have bad credit. So think along those lines. What are they doing to see to it that you continue to have bad credit? What are they doing? Conspiracy theory time. What are they doing overall, behind the scenes, to make sure that our country has a lower credit score than perhaps they should? Maybe continue to report information inaccurately. Maybe ignore dispute requests when you try to get that inaccurate information ignored. Bad credit equals more money for these publicly traded billion-dollar organizations. It's the battle that we fight every day.
And to say that, credit repair is legal, but only for the time being, because if they have a chance, the credit bureaus, to change the laws with their lobbyists and their influence, they will do it because there is nothing that will make them more money than an unchecked credit system without a whole big team of lawyers and entrepreneurs trying to fight them every step of the way.
That's exactly what they want, but we're here to stop it, right? This is the Credit Pros on Real Estate Radio. We'd love to speak with you. If you're having problems with your credit, if you want to learn more about fixing damaged credit, about credit repair, about credit in general, give us a ring on our offline number, 973-771-5118. Again, that number is 973-771-5118, or we're always available on the web, creditrepair.to.
And let's play that music, please, because it's time for the true-false game, Damon.
Credit repair, true, false. Very interesting. Jason, what do we have?
Well, why don't you ask me the question so I can answer them, unless you want to flip it up this week.
Let's flip it up this week.
Okay, Damon. Question number 1. My mortgage broker cannot use my credit report from annualcreditreport.com. Is that true or false?
True. I say it's true because a report from annualcreditreport.com is not a mortgage credit report. Mortgage companies are going to use a tri-merge credit report that has a lot of codes and information on it that is really meant for a mortgage underwriter and a mortgage bank to be able to see. They use that information to determine risk assessment. Your annual credit report is not really used to determine risk assessment. So they're going to pull your credit and you're going to get an inquiry. But you know what's interesting too, and we're going to talk about this. This is the difference now between the kind of a pull that a consumer pull is. So when you're taking a look at your annual credit report and you go into the mortgage company, and the mortgage company says, well, hey, your information on your credit report is very different than the information that is reporting on an annual credit report. Jason, explain to them why. Why would they see two different kinds of reports?
Well, because they're looking at different information.
Sure. There's a broad report and there's a thin report. And the mortgage companies are pulling a broad report. They want to be able to see everything that's on that has to do with your name and perhaps not your name. So they're going to pull your social, but maybe your mom's stuff is going to come up too. They want to see everything that could possibly be you or probably is not you to determine where you've been, where you're going, to be able to make a risk evaluation.
Well, that's also just a point of opinion, because I think they do the broad search because they're at a more advantageous position to get information that's not correct, to drag your credit score down, and to put you in a situation where you're already at the car dealership with your wife and 2 kids who you promised a brand new car for the holidays. She's not leaving without the car. They already took your exchanged car back into the lot and took it nowhere, and you're not leaving without a car. So now, surprise, surprise, the credit report that you pulled offline that showed you had a 680, well, now it's a 620, and you can't go anywhere without getting that car for a higher interest rate. And it's just a way of trapping the consumer with incorrect, inaccurate information. And that credit report that you get at the mortgage company or the car dealership is not available to you before that unless you pay a hell of a lot of money.
Or know somebody.
Or know someone, because they don't let you just pull mortgage reports unless you're the mortgage broker given the financing, or auto reports unless you're the car dealer given the financing. So it's basically an unknown until you're stuck in a situation where you got to pay the higher rate.
Right. So what do? Do you say, no, I'm sorry, wife and 3 kids, we're going to have to leave this car dealership? Or do you say, okay, Mr. Car Dealer, I'll take the 6% higher interest rate. Give me that vehicle because I'm here now. I got to put these kids in the car seats.
And it's all because his name was Damon D. Cracro rather than D. Crescenzo. So suddenly you have some tax lien that doesn't belong to you, or some cable bill that you didn't pay that's really not yours.
Yeah, there you go. Happy day. And how about the scores? I got a phone call yesterday from a client screaming from the car dealership. True Credit says my score is 786. The car dealership pulled it. Why is it 580? What are you doing here? This is insane. Why are the scores different?
Well, because they don't use the correct scoring model. The credit monitoring services have access to the information, but not the score. And most of the time, they work on a completely different scoring model. So the real credit scores go from 300 to 850. If you have TrueCredit.com, the information on there is going to be mostly correct, but the True Credit scoring model, I think, goes from, 400 to 950?
999.
To 999.
So we have folks that call us and say, man, this is fantastic. I have a 936 credit score. No, you don't. Sorry, buddy, don't go buy a house because you're going to be in for a rude awakening. And True Credit is really not very interested in disclosing that information, again, because when you sit down, their partner, the car dealership, makes more money in higher interest rates. Conspiracy. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's about people being aware. Jason, we're running out of time. Please introduce to me the next true or false.
Well, Damon, question number 2. Too many accounts hurt. Is closing accounts on your credit report a good idea?
No, closing accounts is not a good idea. Why don't you explain why? Tell me why.
Well, the reason is positive items make up 65% of your score. Okay? And when we talk about positive items, we're talking about open and active accounts. Okay? When negative accounts, it goes through your history. But when you talk about positive accounts, a credit report's on a snapshot of today. It is a snapshot today. I'm sorry. It's not a history lesson. So only open and active accounts make a difference. So first off, if you close accounts, the accounts are closed. They don't help you anymore. Second thing is most of your credit score, or at least 1/3 of your credit score, is something called utilization rates. Utilization rates are the amount of money you owe compared to the line of credit you have. The higher your line of credit, the better. The lower your balance, the better. The farther the gap between those two, the better your credit score. If you close accounts, then you're going to have less amounts with lines of credit out there. So you're going to be in a situation where every purchase hurts you even more.
Right.
You can't have enough accounts.
I tell people to have as many accounts as you... People don't think so. I say get as many as you can possibly get and keep all of those balances low and you will be a hero. Don't close them. Never close a credit card. These credit card companies are more than happy these days to close the account on you anyway. Why do them the favor? Keep it open, charge a little bit, let it build history. Let that history accrue and you'll be wonderful for it.
And don't get paranoid. Having an account doesn't mean you're going to charge it up and go into debt. Okay, let's take responsibility for most people, but let's take responsibility. Even if it was you in the past, you need the open accounts to have good credit. Don't be scared of it that you're not going to take advantage of it. Okay?
Makes good sense. Last, Jason, how about I read this one to you? A cosigner is just as responsible as a signer. Is a cosigner just as responsible as a signer?
I'm a layman with this, but I would say yes.
That's
absolutely
right.
Absolutely.
Ding, ding, ding.
I get people who call me up and they, everyone has a story, obviously, and they always want to share it. But the most common story is, I had a friend, I had a girlfriend, I had a boyfriend, they were in trouble, so I did the thing and I co-signed for them, and I didn't know, and now I'm responsible. If you watch Judge Judy, it doesn't have to be called a co-signer, it's a signer. Whether you signed on the first line, the second line, the third line, you are responsible for that debt. And they basically took your credit information and they made you a guarantor on it. That's the purpose of signing. So what ends up happening is you are just as responsible. If the person doesn't pay their bill, well, guess what? You're on the hook for it.
That's right. And in the eyes of the creditor, sure, have a cosigner. Have 10 cosigners. We're thrilled about it because if one guy defaults, we're going after everybody. We want our money. The more people whose name is on the X, the better in regards to it could be a car, it could be a home, doesn't matter if it's a loan. How about the parents that are guaranteeing student loans? Oh, no, I just co-signed. My kid's going to school. Guess what? Your kid defaults, you're on the hook.
Mm-hmm. And unless they're your child for a student loan, like what Damon just said, don't go and co-sign for the girl or the guy you love because they need the bigger TV for their bedroom. What the hell kind of stuff is that? If they can't get it on their own credit or they can't afford to get it, then that's their problem. Unless you're buying them a gift, don't co-sign for that kind of stuff because it's only going to come back and bite you. The people who are closest to you today can become big enemies or non-acquaintances later on when money's involved. I see it every day. It's what I do for a living. I'm sure Gary sees it every day with people who have had mixed up wills and lives and families. It happens to everybody. Don't get mixed up in that kind of stuff.
Well, listen, we've come to another end of a wonderful hour here of Credit Pros on Real Estate Radio, and I want to thank Gary Capaldo, our guest. It's been a wonderful time hearing his financial planning expertise. And I wanted to be able to thank our guests out there for listening and joining us. Again, every Sunday between 7 and 8 here on 1250. Our number is 973-771-5118. This is the Credit Pros. Call Jason Kaplan and myself, 973-771-5118. Or you could always visit us on the web at creditrepair.to.
And when I was in Montreal this weekend, I was talking to a very cute French waitress, and she was telling me that the high tax bracket in Canada is around 56%, I think is what she said, anywhere between 52 and 56. So there is so much more money in your pocket being down here in the States. So call Gary, call us, we'll help you out. You're 20% richer than Canada. So let's get to this going. And I'll speak to you guys next week on Real Estate Radio, New Jersey, 12:50 a.m.
Have a good week.
This program is brought to you by the Real Estate Radio Network. Visit realestateradio.us for more info. That's realestateradio.us. For all your credit problems, concerns, or questions, call the show's off-air number at 973-771-5118 and speak to the hosts of the show, Damon DiCrescenzo and attorney Jason Kaplan, directly. 973-771-5118. The preceding program was paid for by Real Estate Radio Network. The hosts are not an employee of WMTR or its parent company, Greater Media. The views and opinions expressed on the Credit Pros on Real Estate Radio New Jersey are not necessarily those of the staff and management of WMTR. Station management has not investigated the claims made in financial service spots that may air during this program. As always, it is advisable to consult a professional before making a major financial decision. The opinions voiced in this program are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your attorney, accountant, financial advisor, or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities are offered in the U.S. through First Allied Securities, Inc., a registered broker, dealer member of FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through First Allied Advisory Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.